budget. You should have on your table a yellow sheet. Now, like I said earlier, there are a lot of questions from the state level at this point about what the organization from the state level is going to be, and that ultimately could affect GBEA. So the decisions that I made when I sat down and looked at this budget was I have to go based on the information that I have now. And I've done the best that I could do to make sure that, number one, the concern that all of us have is, you know, how much less money am I going to bring home next year? And then like I've heard a few times here, how do we keep this organization and how do we keep it functioning so that we can continue to stay in this fight and make sure that things change? So as we go through, I'll go through and kind of show you the things that I've looked at, not knowing some answers, not knowing where some of the income things might come from or might not come from. When you go through, you can see I've kept a lot of things the same as the 2010-11, as the same in the 2011-12 budget. As far as we know at this point, you guys know that the paras still had a contract that extended through next year, so we do expect that that income will stay the same. There's a possibility, of course, depending on if there's any job losses or changes, that it may change a little bit, but it should stay pretty much the same. If you look at reimbursements, line 421000, I did reduce that line item from the WEAC UNISERV reimbursement because, again, with WEAC looking at losing some of their membership, looking at losing some of their income, we will possibly have a loss in income from reimbursements that come from there. The NEA UNISERV reimbursement is a little bit less. We already received information on that. The WEAC legal rebate, we've left the same. Calendar handbooks, that income, typically the calendar handbook pays for itself. Those companies that are in our calendar handbook typically want to keep those ads in there so that our members can use them. So we expect that income to continue. And if you look at line 427000, that's a new line item. It's employee insurance and retirement contributions. That line is the line for the staff in the GBEA office and what their contributions for healthcare and dental like the rest of us. So that is going to be income that will come back to GBEA that we've normally paid on their behalf. So those are the concessions that they will be making, just like the rest of the teachers will be making. If you continue to line item 431000, you notice the interest income on both that line and line 433000 reduced significantly. We were very optimistic this last year, thinking that the situation was going to change and that we would get more interest income. We're not going to do that this year and be realistic about what we actually are going to do, so we significantly reduced those two income lines. If you go down to the other line where it was $15,000, this was the dollars that we got money from WEAC, the $6,000 from WEAC, and then we had also gotten money from the trust. So we reduced that because, again, we don't know whether or not WEAC is actually going to give us that money again. So taking out the money from WEAC and looking at continuing with the money from the trust, who seem to be very invested in us, we expect that we will still get some of those dollars. Now, when you go down to the next section, it's the professional staff. We've reduced the expenses and the training in the professional staff's columns, line items. And I want to explain something to you in case you have a question about this. When you look at the retirement and for both Lori and Keith's position, the number did not change from last year to this year because the way that is actually going to, the amount of dollars that are going to go into their retirement doesn't change. Where the money comes from is what actually changes, and that's the same as with our own. We are now going to be paying that 5.8% into our retirement, so the amount of money that goes into our retirement isn't going to change, but where it comes from is what's going to change. So that's why up above you have that line item of retirement income. That's the income that the staff will actually be paying towards their own retirement and toward their own health and healthcare benefits. So it doesn't change the expense, it changes the origin of the expense. Okay. Same thing with our associate staff. That would be Terry and Ellen's positions. So again, the numbers here don't reflect it, but it's reflected back in the income level. Now the executive board, Brad had worked out, 2 years ago, a schedule where the executive board took lesser stipends than they should have in order to save our dues at one point. And the executive board looked at that this time and actually agreed not to take the expected increases in stipends again this year. So all the stipends will then stay the same as they were this year rather than being increased as they should have been, according to our policies. If you want to flip over to page 3, if you will look at line item 537000, we did increase negotiation crisis by $100. That's a very small amount, but we may have some time that we need to pull that team together again just to meet and talk about some things as we continue to look at what we can do to get a chance to sit down with the district. Line item 541100, the Common Ground, Common Voices. Lori has done a really nice job making sure that she talked to the vendor for the Common Ground, Common Voices. She's actually looked at reducing that print obligation and getting the price down to $8,000. So she's going to, reduce the size that it is. So that actually saved us a significant amount of money. And that's what we were trying to do here, is see where exactly could we save. So that was a significant savings. As you continue down, things stay the same. Line item 581100, the new teacher mentee dinner. We're going to let the district take care of that themselves. Line item 581200, we did reduce the negotiating team. Retirement and awards, that amount is reduced simply because we have such a large number of retirees going this year that next year, I guess we don't expect to have as many. Please don't be offended by that. That was not meant to offend anybody.
Put your name in quick so you can get that.
I know, huh? I wish I could go. Let's see here. Yes.
It looks like on the pages that we have, numbers are actually just pushed down.
Right, yeah. If you look at where it says recognition, yeah.
Yeah. So retirement doesn't look like it's changed at all. It is not. That's the cost
on the retirement gifts, is that the one? Oh, no, that's in the right place. It's the rest of them that are pushed down. Yeah. Did you get that, Joe? You're right that it didn't change, that the other numbers are just down where they shouldn't be?
So it should be $50 for line item 5.
Right.
New teacher, okay.
Yeah. So 581100 should be $50, and then slide everything else up. Okay. And if you flip over to the back side, page 4, we did reduce subscriptions by $100. You can see line item 594200. That's the Chamber of Commerce. We did take out that payment. And contingency is at $10,000. And it's really important to make sure that we do have some contingency. If this year showed us anything, it showed us that there are unexpected expenses that have come up. And I can tell you, by the time we got through printing signs and printing all the different things that we needed to print in writing material, print material, and everything else. We really needed those dollars there. So that is why that contingency stays the same. And then the bottom line effect of this budget is that for the 2011-12 year, we have a $13 dues decrease.